Today I'm diving into all of the novels that are being published in the month of April that I've been looking forward to reading. So grab a cup of something and let's get into it. Hi friends, welcome back to Knits and Stories. If you're new here, my name is Melissa. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. So I feel like spring in the publishing world is a big time of year for some bigger, more well-known authors to be publishing new works. So I thought I'd share with you today the books that are coming out in April that I'm really interested in reading. I'm just going to go through every week of new releases and let you know what I've got my eye on. So let's start with April 1st. So Abby Jimenez is a women's fiction romance author. I think many of us have read previous works of hers, and her latest one is coming out on the 1st. It's called Say You'll Remember Me. And this one has to do with two people that meet and they quickly discover that they are perfect for each other, but they live like 2,000 miles away. So I'm really looking forward to this one. I think this is a situation where we have a guy that comes across as not the brightest, looks wise, super appealing, but he then opens his mouth. But ultimately, he recovers from that and he hits it off with our main character, but then she has a family in crisis and I think has to move. And it is going to be, Abby Jimenez from years past has always taken kind of a deeper look into things. So I have a feeling this one's going to be about long distance relationships and can true love withstand, all that distance. Also on April 1st, we have the sophomore novel by Emilia Hart coming out. It's called The Sirens. You may be familiar with her debut novel that came out last year called Wayward, which revolved around the sisterhood of witchcraft. This one revolves around the sisterhood of the Siren Song. And so this one is a beautiful novel. I think Amelia Hart is very, very good at her craft with writing a really almost lyrical novel. It really sucks you in. I had an advanced copy of this one. I did listen to it in audiobook format, and it was beautifully narrated as well. So this is a story about sisters that are separated by centuries. We're going to have one sister that takes place in modern day times, specifically 2019. Then we'll have a story from 1999, and then we actually have one in 1800. Essentially, we're following the main sister, Lucy, and she awakens from a dream to find her hands around her ex-lover's throat, and she's horrified. She flees her older sister's home on the coast, and she's hoping she can explain these strange, vivid nightmares that preceded her attacking this lover. But her sister is nowhere to be found, and as Lucy's waiting for her sister to return, rumors start kind of spreading around town about her sister Jess's kind of just rumors about her sister. Essentially that numerous men have gone missing at sea, spread over decades, and these are men that have been connected to her sister. A tiny baby was found in a cave, and sailors talk of, hearing women's voices on the waves. And Lucy is desperate for answers, obviously, because she's looking for her sister. And so she begins to read her sister's diaries from her adolescence. So we're going to read her sister Jess's story from the perspective of 1999. And then, of course, we will have a throwback, more historical set of sisters set in the 1800s to follow. It is a beautiful book. If you enjoyed Wayward, I think you will thoroughly enjoy The Sirens. The next book that we have coming out on April 1st is by Jessie Q. Sutanto. This is Vera Wong's Guide to Snooping. This is a follow-up novel to the first book called Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. So if you did not read that first book, it was a delight. Jessie Q. Sutanto is kind of known for her adult novels that really are just laugh out loud funny. In this instance, we have Vera Wong, and in the first book, a man was found dead in her tea house. She's kind of one of those meddling moms. She has a son. So, in this novel, we're following her story, and apparently she's now wishing more dead people would show up in her tea shop. So I don't want to get into too much, but essentially Vera comes across a young lady who is distressed and she thinks needs some kind guidance, but the young lady is looking for a missing person. And so we're going to follow all of the shenanigans that Vera goes through, probably with a lot of snooping, in hopes of finding this missing friend for this young lady. So the following week, on Tuesday, April 8th, we have a new book by Jeneva Weiner, and it's called The Griffin Sisters' Greatest Hits. Now, I am a huge Jeneva Weiner fan. I follow her on Instagram and Facebook. She is known to write pieces for newspaper publications. She's quite vocal about a lot of social issues, particularly revolving around women in the world of publishing. And in this novel that she has coming out, this one is going to revolve around basically the glitz and chaos of what the pop stardom world was like during the early 2000s. So this one is supposed to be family saga meets behind the scenes look at fame, and particularly focusing on a set of sisters and secrets and the idea of second chances. So the Griffin Sisters' Greatest Hits, we're going to follow a pop duo, sisters, and we're going to follow their sudden skyrocket to fame, everything from the cover of Rolling Stones, MTV, Saturday Night Live, everything that could possibly make them uber stars. That's what happens. But then we're also following their story 20 years later, where one who had originally really craved the limelight and fame, she's now a mom warning her daughter about avoiding the limelight. And then her sister, who was never really comfortable in her own skin during their stardom, has kind of disappeared from the public eye altogether. So we're kind of navigating the stories of all three of them, the two sisters and now the one daughter. And so this is going to be a nod, obviously, to the pop culture of the 2000s. And it says that it's a must-read for music lovers, fans of sisterly drama, and anyone who cherishes a great story about second chances. I am a sister. I have a younger sister, so I'm always here for a sisterly drama. So the next book that I am am looking forward to. I actually have an advanced copy of this, so I will probably get to it a little bit sooner. But it actually publishes on April 10th. This is because this is an indie author who is publishing through Amazon. So you'll have to get either, I think it comes out in a Kindle edition or a paperback edition, but you won't be able to find it at your local independent bookstore. But this one is called The Forgotten Bookclub by Kate Storey. And the reason this one appeals to me is that we're looking at a wife, Grace, who for 3 decades has basically supported her husband's love of books, though she's not a reader. And he's since passed away, and her heartache has kind of grown. So her grandson suggests that she join Frank's old book club to feel closer to him. And so she reluctantly agrees. And she gets to book club and she discovers that it's not a typical book club, because here all the members are just settling in for an hour of reading in silence. So she's disappointed by the idea that there is such sparse attendance, for one. She's confused by the lack of chatter that she was expecting from a book club, and she flees. But another member basically convinces her to stay, and she's determined that Frank nor his book club are going to be forgotten. It sounds like she's going to breathe new life into the book club and kind of figure out where does she belong in all of this. So it's a story that kind of intrigued me, and I'm really looking forward to diving into it. On April 15th, we have The Perfect Divorce by Jeneva Rose. This is another book that I have been eagerly awaiting. I loved the first book, The Perfect Marriage. In the first book, we are looking at Sarah and her husband, Adam. And Adam is discovered, he's having an affair. It's the woman he was having an affair with ends up being found dead in like their vacation home or whatever. So the whole book revolves around basically he's a suspect. His wife, who now has all of this going on, she happens to be an attorney and she defends him in that court case. I loved that book. I thought there were a lot of plot twists and turns. So The Perfect Divorce is the sequel to it. And so it's been 11 or 12 years since that court case has taken place. And Sarah has since remarried, and she discovers that her new husband has had an affair. And so obviously she's filing for divorce. So I think we're resurrecting some of the things from the first novel, and then of course navigating this new situation. I do have an advanced copy of it. I am about 20% in, and so far I'm loving it. The only way I can put it down at night is when I'm just so doggone tired that I can't keep my eyes open anymore. On April 22nd, we have The Page Turner by Viola Shipman. I actually had an advanced copy of this. I did recently finish. It took me a while to get into it, but I will say this was a really great novel. We have a young romance writer who is the daughter of two parents who own their own publishing company, but they only publish like highbrow, like literary fiction. So they don't know that she's written a novel. And she's kind of like the black sheep of her family. So her parents have this publishing, like I said, this publishing house. She doesn't read the types of books that they publish. She has an older sister who works in social media and is like a social media darling, who does basically gets paid to promote books on social media from various authors, publishing houses, that sort of thing. But she obviously does a lot of social media posting about the books that her parents are publishing. But the sneaky thing about it is she's not reading those books either. And so this one involves her parents are in trouble. They're kind of financially strapped with this publishing firm. They get wrapped up with this deal with this author who's just kind of slimy. There's just something about him that our main character, Emma, doesn't like. She doesn't like the fact that her parents are kind of getting in bed with him from a financial standpoint. She just thinks that there's something off. And she does discover what that something off is, and then she's got to try and do something to rescue her parents' business. So the next book that comes out is the Bookclub for Troublesome Women by Marie Bostwick. This one really intrigued me. This is supposed to be a really humorous, thought-provoking, and nostalgic, like, romp through what they say is one pivotal and tumultuous American year. And it's an ode to women's self-discovery, persistence, and the power of sisterhood. It's being hailed as a historical fiction piece that is for those of us who enjoyed lessons in chemistry, The Women, or if you've read The Briar Club. It's supposed to explore the historical role that women have had and the challenges that they faced within societal structures, particularly how those societal structures have defined us or limited our roles in and out of the home. So this one, we're looking at the 1960s. And so our main character, Margaret, is living what most people during that time would have thought was the American dream. She has a husband, she has 3 children, station wagon, and this beautiful home in Northern Virginia. She is invited to the neighborhood, like, coffee club, women's coffee club. And so she gets invited to this coffee club, and the women are sharing secrets and cocktails and their honest reactions to the controversial bestseller at the time, The Feminine Mystique. And that the idea of the American dream that they've been sold isn't quite all the roses and sunshine that they thought it was going to be. So I'm really intrigued by this one, particularly as we kind of navigate the new waters for women in society currently. So the last book I think a lot of us are eagerly awaiting on April 22nd is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I'm a huge Emily Henry fan. I love that her novels are a little bit deeper than most romantic comedies. So though it's a romance novel, there's so much more intricacy to the stories. And it sounds like this one's going to be no different. So like many of her books, we're following 2 writers. And in this case, we have Alice, who's dreamed of her big writing break. And then we have Hayden, who is a Pulitzer-winning author. And they've both been invited to this island, and they are both there to write the biography of a woman who that no one has seen in years. And it says they're trying to meet with the octogenarian who claims to be the Margaret Ives, the woman that hasn't been seen in years. She's considered to be a tragic heiress, former tabloid princess, and she's the daughter of one of the most storied and scandalous families in the 20th century. So Margaret invites them both to this little island for a period of time, for 1 month, And after which she'll choose which one is going to be the one to tell her story. The thing about this novel is that our heiress is only going to be telling pieces of her story to each of them. And there's some sort of ironclad NDA. Alice and Hayden won't be able to swap notes. So I think this is going to be a really fascinating read as we're in the minds of both of these authors, but also of our heiress. So that concludes the books I'm really looking forward to being published in April. Obviously, I have a head start on a couple of them, but I'm curious, did I miss any that maybe you're waiting to be published and I forgot here? If so, leave a comment down below. Thanks for joining me this week. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see more of my content. Otherwise, happy reading, and I will see you next week.
Always think of you when spring comes, like it's something in the air at that time. Don't know why. Always dream of you when spring comes. It's like the heat on my skin takes me back to the time met you.